Hi.
And 7:02, but maybe give one more minute as you guys are putting your information in the chat. See if a few more people might join. Oh, we have a waiting room full. That's why. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to that. And Carolina, great. Okay. All right. I don't see oh, Naya, you're here. She's connecting to audio. Hi, Naya. Where'd you go? There you are.
Hi, sorry.
That's okay. When you put your camera on, it like moves your zooms. So, all right. Actually, Naya, would you like to get us started going
Yeah.
over the top of the agenda, and then I'll just keep admitting people.
Yeah. So just a reminder. Hi everyone. Hope everyone's night is going well. Just a reminder that on the top of the agenda, there's a blue box with important links. And it has just the LGA calendar, the guide, to Beyond Plastic Slack channel, resource pages, just a whole bunch of things that are really important. Filling out a form to be a local group or an affiliate, and grassroots organizing skill tutorials if you guys need it. And if anyone would like to put in the chat just names, pronouns, location, and have you started or joined a local group or affiliate? And do you plan on looking for one to join? And then we'll go to announcements if anyone doesn't have questions.
Thank you. And I don't think I saw anyone else in the waiting room, but I will make some co-hosts here quickly. So, oh, you're co-host already, Alexis. You're good. Okay, I'm not sharing screen already. Sorry, I had a brain lapse there and thought I was still sharing my screen. So as far as announcements go, I think we're just gonna have one big announcement, which I think, put out a teaser for already, that our 2024 collective action is not going to be during July. So everybody who was really overheating in July, thankfully, it's going to be in April. And it can be anytime during the month of April that we are asking groups to host a screening of Blue Vinyl, which I've linked the page and the agenda. The guide is not quite done. I'm going to give you a preview in a moment, but we want you to start looking for and reserving a venue, because April is a very popular time. Things book up quickly. So look for, church, library, community space, wherever you would normally look to host a function. It would be best, I think, to do it in person. We have 50 screenings available. So it's the same link, but we're only able to use it 50 times. So that means if you do an online screening, you would have to share screen, and actually simultaneously all of your viewers would view it together. And I have some guidance for optimizing audio and video. The person that is sharing screen would obviously have to have a very solid connection, high-speed connection, for that to work. So we'll follow up with that, but ideally, if you can do it in person, that would be great. The way I see this working is that everybody who wants to host a screening, I think, just email me so that I know. We'll get the link soon. We don't have it quite yet. And once once we're sure that everybody that wants to do a screening has the link, if we have viewings left over, then we can give you, like, some groups want a second link so that they can have an online viewing and an in-person viewing. So I'm just saying that, there's one showing per group, but then I'm guessing we're going to have some leftover viewings. Yes, Alexis.
That's great, Christina. Thank you so much for working on the guide. I just want to ask if there were anybody here who commented on the EPA webinar that was yesterday, I believe. Kelly, okay. So if anybody doesn't know why we're talking about doing this screening, it's that a year ago this month, the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, led to 5 train cars worth of vinyl chloride being dumped into basically a ditch and burned off without any pollution controls. And at any given moment, this material is being shipped all across the country. If you live near a train tracks, this could happen to anybody, basically. And vinyl chloride is exclusively used to make polyvinyl chloride plastic, and it's toxic. It's one of the best studied carcinogens in the workplace. And the EPA has basically fast-tracked it for review under the Toxic Substances Control Act, which is the act that allows EPA to basically study chemicals of concern and see whether there is grounds to restrict the use of those chemicals. So it's a long process, and it's going to require a lot of public pressure but the end goal is to get vinyl chloride banned. Biden was in East Palestine last Friday. He met with our colleague Jess Connard, who lives in East Palestine. And right now there is, the EPA has until December to designate whether they're going to fast track vinyl chloride, but it's on the short list. So the goal of this screening is to, one, get awareness out there of what's going on with vinyl chloride and why we want to ban it, because we don't want another East Palestine disaster to happen anywhere else. And then to turn that awareness into action and pressure the EPA to put vinyl chloride on this fast track for review under TSCA and eventually ban it. It's going to be a long process, but this is really the start, and it's going to take a lot of grassroots pressure, and we're kind of leading the charge on that. So that's why, if it feels like this is coming out of nowhere, it's actually very exciting that we have this opportunity to ban vinyl chloride.
Thanks, Alexis. You got ahead of me. I was going to jump back to all
God,
that.
I'm sorry, Christina.
No, that's okay.
Christina and I didn't get a chance to coordinate our meeting tonight.
Yeah, no apologies. So I just, in regards to the process, it can be 6 to 8 years long. So there's 3 stages of prioritization, which is what we're trying to push through right now. And that's what the webinar had to do with. So once that happens, then it goes to the next stage, one more stage after that. So it's a long process. And, back in 1974, when it was found to be a carcinogen, it was pulled from aerosols. And so we've known this for over 40 years, right? Like, we need to get on with it already. So that's why there's so much pressure right now to do this. And it's because of vinyl chloride that the original TSCA law was passed in 1976. So this is like a really big deal. And so if we can get these screenings across the country, getting people very motivated and activated, we then can have those people attend a power hour, and I can announce this date, right, Alexis? On April 19th, to reach out specifically to EPA Administrator Michael Regan, and we'll have a bunch of other actions included in that session. And so we'll just really look to apply pressure. So the screening is really kind of getting everybody activated and excited and understanding why there's this push and this window open to actually finally ban vinyl chloride. It's so long overdue. So so ideally we have the screening before April 19th. Ideally, yes. If that's not possible, you could try to get people to do the power hour first and then do the screening after. But yes, that would be ideal. And, you know, I think you're at the mercy of venues, honestly. So just, again, start looking as soon as possible. And I'm going to just share a preview of the guide because we still have to confirm some things and get permissions for some images. So some things may change, but it will be a web page off of our website. There is a tabs here on the top with a sample media advisory that we have already written out. So all you'll have to do is enter your local information for the screening and send that to your media contacts. Our sample run a show is more general and depends on if you're online or in person. Social media toolkit, again, I'm waiting on permissions for images. We have a vinyl chloride fact sheet that's already up on our website. And then I also, under facts, sorry for the scrolling, linked a bunch of documents here. So those can all help you to get some background on vinyl chloride, talking points, help you think about discussion that you want to have after the film. And then we have all of these screening tips for how to go about actually hosting a screening, promoting it. We will have a flyer, sample flyer for you as a Canva template so that you can modify that. And I think that's pretty much it. So this will be ready to go soon. The link will not be available until April. But again, if you can just email me or Alexis or Naya and just let us know if you are planning on getting a screening or hosting a screening rather, that would be great, just so that we can start to have an idea of how many of our allotted 50 viewings are going to be used. So I'm going to leave it at that. Any quick questions? We will use, before I open it up, we're going to use the March meeting as a prep and support for the screenings. So you can absolutely contact us before then. So once we roll everything out, we email you the guide. There's going to be a screening guide with questions. Email us, we'll Zoom with you if you need help setting it up. And then in March, during this monthly meeting, we'll also offer support. So are there any questions?
Christina, so are you saying that the blue vinyl, anyone who wants to screen it will have to screen it on April 19th or before April 19th?
Before April 19th, ideally.
Oh, okay. So
And
as
then-
soon as the link comes out, it's not like we all have to screen on the same day.
No, exactly.
wonderful. Oh, good. Then I can
Yeah.
still continue with my birthday and not have to pick this over.
Yay.
Hey.
Good. Yeah. Makes it a little easier. Okay.
I was just wondering, is there, you have the opportunity for 50 screenings, but does that mean we wouldn't be able to screen it ourselves, look at it before we show it to a public audience?
Well, you actually can on Tubi. I can pop up, or Naya, do you mind looking that link up and popping in the chat? It has ads though. So we are getting you a link that will not have advertisements popping up. I think on Tubi, some people have gone on and they don't get ads the first time and then they get ads the second time. Whichever the case, but you can go ahead and view it before following that link, use that link.
That'd be good. Thanks.
Yeah, and I highly recommend, you know, if you don't have capacity, but you work with other groups, you know, co-hosting is great. If you can get a few groups together and maybe someone will take the bulk of the, you know, the actual organization of the event. Gail.
Hi, I'm a little confused. If I'm not sure how I'm supposed to
What's
how,
that?
how I'm supposed to promote an event if I don't have access to that thing that you just showed us, and I won't have access to that until April.
No, you will have access to this guide before April. So the screening link, I'm saying it won't be activated to work until April, but you'll be able to promote it, and we'll get you the link. And so we're just giving you a little bit of a preview and a teaser because we want you to go ahead and book a space in which to host the screening and start thinking about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Tamala, is that a ghost hand or is that a new one? Nope, that's gone now. Okay.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So,
Sure.
how about in theater? Like we have a local historic theater in town. Is that a possibility, or I'm not sure?
Yeah. I mean, wherever, that's great. I mean, if you can get a theater, that's amazing. We're here to support you remotely, but we're not going to be on the ground securing the place. And it'll be your responsibility to promote and get people to attend, and that sort of thing. Does that answer your question, Tamala?
Yeah, I have no idea how my theater shows movies and stuff. So that's I don't know if they can just like
Yeah.
plug in a link to like a computer link and then put it on their big screen. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I would find out, reach out to me with any questions about that. Looking at the contract today, we are able, it sounds like, to secure some DVDs. In terms of getting that, is that shipped? Or, like there's some, I think ideally you use the link to do it, but there may be some ways for us to actually get a hard copy and then get it back after and return it. So let's
Yeah, I don't know if anyone, works in theaters that, they used to have the big reels, right? And then they're
Right.
showing, contemporary like Sundance films or whatever. Like, I don't know how they do that. Is it just with the link on their computer or I don't know.
I would ask them because it depends.
Yeah,
on the
I
theater.
will.
Yeah.
I'm curious because I am curious.
Sure.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. All right. I think Kathy, you were next.
Yeah, I did a film screening at a local theater. Just a heads up, might save some people a little headache. You do need to get insurance. I did it off of my own personal homeowner's policy. It's not really expensive, but it is a step you'll have to take. And you will probably also have to hire an AV tech through that venue to help with the projection, but worth it so that you get the screening up and running.
Thank you, Kathy. That's a great point. And I am sorry to say we are not able to provide insurance. So like Kathy said, you'd have to secure it in other ways. Some libraries and other venues require it and some don't. So I would say probably the smaller the venue, they may not. What is the insurance for? I think it's liability if anything were to happen at the venue. Just kind of standard. But yeah, it can be expensive. So definitely ask about that. All right. So again, we're going to communicate more information. This was just kind of a teaser. And if there's nothing else, I'm going to be passing it over to Carolina Korth at Beyond Plastics Queens, who is going to take us through how they organize their group, because they are very organized, and it really helps to focus on campaigns in an efficient way. So Carolina, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks. Hey, y'all. I am hoping that I have this prepared enough. I'm not as prepared as I wanted to be because I can probably see my really cool scar. I had spine surgery a few weeks ago, and then my beloved kitty died last week. So it's been an interesting time in my house. So please ask questions at any time. I tried to get this as organized as it could be. Well, maybe not at any time, but if it's something that's relevant to like what I'm talking about at the moment, or it's something that I have on the screen, please do. And I might not catch it. So like Alexis or Christina, if you are, any of you, if you're like, hey, there's a relevant question right now in the chat, like holler at me. So the reason that I even am remotely okay at any of this is because I was a field director for an actual primary campaign here in in New York City. So I learned a lot of this stuff the hard way. It was my full-time job, and I've done a lot of organizing of other things, had to use Action Network for other stuff. So I know how daunting it can seem. But I promise if you just get some like basic admin set up, it will help you so much in the future. I actually am almost done with my master's right now in environmental law, and the class I'm in is about advocacy and communications and leadership. And in a book that I've been reading, it's like, as homework, it says like, admin sucks, but you got to do it, because you can have all the energy in the world, you can have just the best of intentions, but if you don't set up the organizational structure of what you're trying to do, you're going to burn out eventually. And the other really important thing that I think the benefit of admin is if something happens to me or someone else, or if I'm just like, I have so many things going on, I literally can't do this one thing, we've got processes set up and somebody else can jump in and take over, or, you know, whatever the situation. So one of the biggest things that was really important for us to figure out in the beginning, because I've been parts of different groups, and, you know, after a while you start to see like, they are very successful when they need to mobilize people, they do. When they need to, you know, when they need volunteers for something, they get them. Like, this other group doesn't. What's the difference? We decided early on that there were going to be 3 levels to our group. Let's see, I will do a screen share in a moment. I'll scroll down to this spot. Okay. So share. All right, so you should all be able to see. I think you can. Okay, so this, I think this is personally,
It's kind of small, Carolina. Could you make it bigger?
Well, I'll read out loud what it is anyways, but let me see if I can. I'm sure I can. Oh yeah.
Are you on a Mac? I was going to say you can do the command + sign.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm on an
very
Apple
readable now.
And this is on my external monitor. So I'm like extra. I extra have no idea what it looks like to other people.
It's great. You got it.
So we decided, like, this was something that I was like, I really feel very strongly about this, that we're going to have active members and we're going to have supporters. Because I've seen groups that have, you know, like, they're like, oh, great, like, we're adding more people to the Google group. And pretty soon there are 600 people who are members of a local organization, and they all get a message on the Google group here and there. And, but when there's that many people, because they want to know, they're like, yeah, we're supporting, we're this, we're that. But then when you need volunteers for something, since there are so many people who are on that Google group, they're like, that doesn't have to be me. There hasn't been a particular ask made of them. You haven't like found out things about them. Also, sometimes with those Google groups, like, and if you're on the New York is Not Disposable, for those of you in New York, you know, when you send a reply on the Google group, it does not get sent out. Like, there's Alexis is a moderator on that, because you can very quickly fatigue people. If there's one person who's hitting a reply and it's going to everybody else, and it's like, I can't do that, but I saw this really fun thing. Like, you don't want to have that happen either. This is our volunteer time. And as important as this work is, people get burned out very easily. They get fatigued very easily. So as much as you can streamline it for the folks who are involved, great. And even better, the folks who are supporters, like, it's not like on a need to know basis, but kind of a little bit. You could kind of think of it that way. So we have supporters. They get our newsletter through emails on Action Network. The way that you can think about them is like, they want to be aware of the progress. They want to sign petitions, and they want to make phone calls to local reps. So these are folks that, and I will go over this later, we have, we use Action Network for our newsletters. We send out a monthly newsletter. And that list is the list that we have. So let's say we're getting, so like in New York State, we have this amazing piece of legislation, the Packaging Reduction Recycling Infrastructure Act. Let's say that, you know, it's going to be brought up for a vote, or like we're making one big extra push. I can then send an email to every single person who is a supporter and say, now is the time, call your reps. Like, it's just like, we don't want to fatigue them. So we just send them the monthly newsletter. And then we get whenever we really need somebody, or like in New York City Council, they're going to vote on this bill, call your council member. We can set up an action, which is kind of a next level thing. But for those of you that are able to do that with Action Network, it's great. But just, I would encourage that for your group, think about it like this. This might not work for you. This might not at all work for you, because Queens, we have a couple million people here. So it's a little different than some of the other groups. We have active members. So we have a lot less active members than we have supporters. This is, we have a monthly meeting. They come to those. When we do events in person, they come to those. When we have things that we need volunteers, they volunteer. And then we have leadership. So we not only do we have one monthly meeting, which kind of goes over it here. One meeting per month. They're usually online. We try to do one in person every quarter. And then the steering committee, we meet about halfway between 1 month's monthly meeting and then the following one. So that is one thing that I think that is important to know. So as far as our admin, I'll stop this for a second. So as far as our, does anybody have any questions about that? We all good? It's pretty clear, pretty obvious. Cool.
But that makes a lot of sense to me, Carolina. This is Dee Dee. Can you tell us about how many people are in each of those 3 tiers?
So
and on your steering committee?
Yeah, so right now we have 100 and some people who are receiving our emails that we would call like supporters. And then like people who follow us on Instagram, like we try, and I'll go on to our Instagram later so you can see how that is, like how it's like the flow is on it, so that like the link tree folks can go to that. And then I'll kind of go over a little bit like with tabling what the goals are. Because when we have people follow us on Instagram, then sometimes we're going to send a newsletter where it's like, hey, the newsletter's coming out. Did you get it? You're going to get it. We're talking about this. Then we want to move them from like the looky-loos on Instagram, hopefully to supporters. And then the supporters always have the option at the end of the Action Network newsletters, if you want to become a member, fill out our member interest form. And then members, I would say we're probably at about, I'd have to open the actual drive to check, but let's see, BPQ members, we're like at about 20 some. Yeah. Like I would say 22 active members, which considering we started not even a year ago, I'm pretty happy with that. Cool. So we have, as far as like admin, we have a few things. One, we have a Google account. So that is our email, beyondplasticsqueens@gmail.com. And the drive. The drive is where most things live. And I'm going to show you how that's organized. We also have a Google group. Anyone who, we like have a process for how we intake members, which I'm going to go over as well. But anyone who's like, yes, I'm in, I'm a member, they get added to the Google group. So if anybody ever needs to, they can, like if they get some really cool thing or somebody says, hey, this event's happening, would you guys be interested? They can send something to the entire group if they want. We use it pretty sparingly, but it's there and available if anybody needs to reach the entire group. And I don't know if you all, I figure you all probably know how the Google groups work. Like you write, it's like it's like Beyond Plastics Queens at groups.google or something like that. I don't know, but each one has an address. We have a WhatsApp chat. Some groups would maybe prefer Slack. Slack is definitely more organized, but I find that Slack is a little too correlated with like work for some people. And they're like, I don't want to get on Slack. Like I personally, I'm still like, I don't want to be on Slack for this stuff. And it can get a little out of hand. So we found for us, it works really well to have a WhatsApp group. We have a chat. We have one for members of Beyond Plastics Queens, like everybody. And it's great because you can use polls on there. We'll say, hey, we're going to do silk screen shirts for Beyond Plastics Queens. And we're all going to bring like old used shirts, like almost like the more obvious that they're old shirts, the better. And we're going to do a silk screen. Well, we need to pick a day. So we get to use the WhatsApp group and do a poll on there because all of the members on there, and it's super easy. And then the steering committee, we have our own separate chat because we're dealing with like the, you know, the higher level requests that are coming in. Hey, can anybody speak at this event or blah, 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 whatever. So we find that to be really useful. And sometimes not everyone's paying attention to WhatsApp chat. You can see who's read something, who, you know, like who has yet to read something. You can shoot them a text. Hey, just flagging this or whatever. Like that's kind of the benefit of WhatsApp. And then Action Network. Again, that is at this point, we are using that just because it's not the most intuitive thing in the world. It's like my frenemy. Action Network is fantastic for larger organizing. Right now, we are only using it for the newsletter. We may someday build capacity where we're using it for more than that. And at least it's there for that. And we have captured information from people who are interested in what we're doing and what work we, you know, just like plastics. And I'll show you how we've captured that, like kind of what the goals are when we're out tabling. Like there are kind of like different levels of what you want to get from your interactions when you're out tabling. So those are the main, just look at the main, the main things that we use for organizing. All right, so now I'm going to show you our Google Drive. And just tell me if it needs to be, again, because I am on an external monitor, so it looks enormous to me. So if something needs to be zoomed in, just let me know. So this is the Beyond Plastics Queens Google Drive. Notice here, there's a folder that says accessible to all BPQ members. This is like stuff that anybody can look at. I'll just open it really quick so you can see there's assets, there's photos, events, meetings, infos, all this stuff. And I'll get to that shortly. One thing that is really important, I think, again, when it comes down to like being able to, you know, hey, this is going on. I don't have time to get to it. Can you please get to it? Somebody else can jump on and do it. So like this stuff, pretty much like the steering committee gets to jump on there. It can get a little tricky with Gmail because, or with like a Google Drive, because sometimes if you log in, like I am logged into this from Beyond Plastics Queens, like there's the little logo up here, that is the account. If somebody else tries to log in from Beyond Plastics Queens, then it'll probably say, hey, is this you trying to log in on another computer? So ideally you're gonna share. So like this is shared with everyone on BPQ. I can literally do that and every single person that we have in there, because I've put them on our, I have put them on our contact list, which will come up in the membership thing. So accounts and links, I blacked out all the passwords. So ha 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 ha, no, I'm just kidding. So this is just like kind of the spot where like important stuff that you might want to go back to. So like everybody knows, oh, I didn't need to blank out that password, but this is like where they have, like National has resources. Great. This is our member interest form. We have a bit.ly for it, which is really important. I will show you why later. We also have a QR code for it that is saved in the drive. I will show you that later. This is for the email list, two different things. The email list is for supporters who want to once a month know what's going on. Maybe down the road, they want to become a member. The member interest form is—
Carolina, could you make it bigger again?
Yes. The member interest form is like, no, I definitely know that I want to be a member now. This is, you know, our Gmail, which leads us to, so these are forms. This form exists on the Google Drive. You will see it later. You can see here, it's a form on Google. This takes people to Action Network. Our Instagram.
Would you be able to just show us what these forms look like?
I'm going to go through all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I will go. I'm going to try and go through all. This might be a little longer than we thought, but I'm going to go through all of this if it's going to be helpful. If folks are like, nah, I don't give a crap, that's fine. our Instagram, our Linktree, our Zoom account, our Action Network account. When is good? This is like if we need to take polling to the next level to find out, you know, with more people, what's going to work. It's more than like just the WhatsApp poll can handle. We have hashtags for Instagram in case somebody's like, oh, I'm going to post this thing. You can just copy and paste. Depending on the thing, we might add something else like New York, whatever. New York is not disposable, or, you know, just depends on what it is. This I find very, 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 very helpful. Anytime you're doing any sort of design stuff, we have like beyond BPQ, we don't have a Canva account, but Rachna, co-president, she has one. And so she has a team, and she and I and the person who's on our social media all have access to it. Knowing these colors, knowing the numbers of them, which actually, does somebody want to like copy them and put them in the chat so that people can save them? Because it is truly, oh, what did I just do? Truly so useful to have. Actually, I can copy and paste. What the F am I doing? Hold on. I'm going to copy and paste them and drop them in the chat. How do I do that? Where do I do that? I cannot do that. Maybe somebody else can just type them in there. That'd be really helpful. And I'll show you why later. They're good to know. And then the story of plastic full length doc, which, you know, which I think we're screening at Queen's Botanical Garden in April, like a huge screening, which is exciting. Anyways, so that is one document that, you know, it's really helpful. We have a delegation checklist. This was like kind of when we were starting. This for us, we don't really use this, but this is a good thing. Like maybe when you're going to be kind of figuring things out, what are different things that folks are going to do, like the leadership roles for your group. But the leadership roles. So we, you know, there are suggestions for different groups, and for different groups, different things work. For us, we found that, so we have co-presidents, and we're both I'm policy organizing and Rachna's education. We have a social media lead because we feel that Instagram is really important. We're not really doing Facebook, but that's that. We have a membership lead. They intake new members, manage the membership list. We do not have a design lead because I just basically do it. We have someone who's the de facto event manager. I just haven't updated this in a while. We do have a note taker, which is really important. She is amazing because every time we have a meeting, she follows up afterwards with like highlighted, these are like, this person is doing this. This person is doing that. That person is doing this. And then the notes, which with the highlights, like with more context, which again, nobody has to do all of this stuff. This is like, maybe someday you'll do it. Maybe you'll get the capacity to be able to do it someday. And then this is more for me, like, and I'll show you, I haven't updated in a while. I have a newsletter emails content list. And I have like, for myself, here are things, this actually went out in the last email. It's like a reminder for me when there's something that comes up in an email, I'm like, pop it in there because that needs to go out in the next newsletter. Pop that in there because that needs to go in the next newsletter. Our February newsletter is going to have info about Judith's class. You know, like we want to make sure that we give that information to other people. This is something that just came along that I want to make sure that folks get. There, you know, I just kind of like that. So I haven't updated it recently. I've kind of just written the newsletters. Things have been a little crazy, but just so you know, like, and I'll show you again, everybody's gonna do what they want to do, but I find this to be super, super easy. Like this great piece of info came up. We always have an intro. So like in November, it was like, hey, everybody, Thanksgiving's coming up. Here are 6 simple tips for a plastic-free Thanksgiving, doodly-doo. And like a new plate, you know, upcoming events. And that's where we put the events, policy news. Like our newsletters are broken down, upcoming events, policy news, educational links. So it's like people know, they scroll. We don't want to have you have to spoon feed things sometimes. Like it's sad, but it's true. And from many years of organizing, I have found that to be like, yeah. So Lobbying, I'm not going to go into because that's just like info that we have, that's stuff for New York. Membership. And this is not in the accessible to everybody. So this is the form that anyone who is interested in joining Beyond Plastics Queens fills out, because we want to manage expectations. If somebody signs up, like, well, first we want to know what their interests are, but also there's an email that goes out. Like, we have a process for what happens for people who are interested in being a member. So we get their email, their name, preferred pronouns, phone number. Because there are so many neighborhoods in Queens, and like events usually come up by neighborhood, like, oh, it's like, hey, we're doing an event in Jamaica, can you like table there? We found it easier. I literally typed all of these in instead of doing zip codes, because if somebody tells me a zip code, I'm like, oh, that doesn't mean anything to me. And then zip code as well, just because. Ways you can help. This is really important to know. What do people want to do? We've gotten some really interesting, like, people have written, like, somebody's like, I'm a scientist for Pew Research. And it's like, whoa, that's cool. You know, like, people will share the most interesting things. And you don't, again, nobody has to do any of this stuff, but I find it helpful, like, down the road, you're like, you know what? We actually have to build a website. Maybe people who signed up were like, yeah, I can do that. So you don't have to like ask everybody. You can just kind of go individually. Availability for actions, any special skill. Can you do translating in other languages? At least for Queens, that is incredibly important. I am not going to show you how this all comes in because there's a lot of personal info there, but this is the new member intake. So we have our membership lead, right? Our current membership lead is so busy right now she works for All We Can Save project. She has so much going on that somebody else has stepped in and is covering for her. So that's the beauty of this. Like, somebody else can step in and cover. So after somebody fills out the interest form, it populates on this, it's linked. The membership lead should then, which, by the way, the membership lead, I have a filter set up. So that when I get an alert from the form that says somebody has filled out your form, it automatically forwards that email to the person who's the membership lead at the time. So they actually get the email. They never need to log into the Gmail account for Beyond Plastics Queens, and then they can just email them back from their own account, and we can avoid the whole, hey, are you trying to log in on doodly daddly do? And then they just CC Beyond Plastics Queens, because again, something might happen. So God forbid something, somebody passes, they got to leave town or whatever, then someone else can step in. So you email this person. I'll show you what we've got, what this says. Hey, thanks for your interest, blah, 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 blah. Our regular meeting time is 11 a.m. second set, blah, blah. Our next monthly meeting is, this all gets changed every time. This was just from the first time. This is a big one. I think we ask that members be willing to give at least a few hours a month to this cause. Like, if people want to join, but then they like disappear and you never see them, okay, then they're kind of more of a supporter, and that's fine. We need people who will like call their rep that one time or whatever the situation, or maybe they need to take a break and then they'll come back later. And we've had people do that. But I do think it's important to, like, when somebody wants to join, it's like, I mean, I'm sure you've all been in groups where there are 30 members, but really 5 people do everything. This hopefully kind of sets the expectation that, like, we're really hoping that you're going to show up you're ready to give us a couple hours. You're going to come to the monthly meeting. You'll table 1 or 2 times. You'll come to this other event that we're having, or whatever the story, and then we say, like, here's what we need. If you're not getting the newsletter, sign up to get it. There's a way I can do it on the back end. I just find it annoying, so I have people do that. But, if you're a whiz with Action Network, you do you. Let us know if you're in, because then you get added to these things. If your situation changes and you don't have the bandwidth, just let us know. We get it. But also, we're also volunteers. So, like, we don't want to be like, hollering into the void. Hello, are you okay? Do I need to worry about you? Anyways, so that's that. After that gets sent and they say, yeah, no, I'm in, they get moved over to another list. They get added to the Beyond Plastics email account, and then we make sure to add them to that. As you may recall, when I did that folder thing in the Google Drive, I could put share with BPQ and everybody in it was there. I didn't even have to go looking for emails, which is like so fun. Add them to the Google group, the WhatsApp chat, and then just double check on Action Network to make sure they're there. Does anyone have questions about like this membership stuff? Great. Social media posts, it's really straightforward. Like whatever you do, we just happen to put them there because sometimes it's easier for somebody else to post it. Videos you don't need. Okay, so accessible to all Beyond Plastics members. We have assets. So like all of our logos, you know, it's nice. Sometimes people need to get a hold of those for some reason. We have flyers, which I will show you when I go a little bit more into tabling. We have these printed out. So when we are tabling, actually, it's probably easier for you to see it here. When we are tabling, we have these posters out. I have them taped onto pieces of cardboard so that they can stand up. This is subscribe to our email list. And then down here, you want to become a member, do this. And then here's our Instagram. And I will go over a little bit later why this is up top and then this is down bottom. This is the more likely way that we're going to engage people. This is like, figure out later if it's something you want to do, right? What else? Oh, we had this, we were doing this for a while, like, you know, but anyways, this is stuff. This is something, Christina did this. I just altered it to be like a 12 by 18 file. So this is another thing that's printed that when we table, we have it. And I'm going to show you guys, like, here's our little box for tabling things, just as ideas. Everybody does stuff, and that'll be super fast because this is really just supposed to be about organizing. QR codes. We make QR codes for things. This is really great because guess what? All of our members have this QR code. I share it every once in a while. So if they are at the grocery store and they see that, you know, 2 bananas are wrapped in plastic and they're like, ugh. And somebody next to them says, yeah, I know, isn't that annoying? Can say, oh my gosh, you hate plastic. Amazing. You should join Beyond Plastics Queens. Hold on, tap, tap, tap. Scan this photo on my phone and you can get on our email list. I'm a big fan of QR codes, guys. We don't do things with paper when we table because we're all about sustainability, but QR codes are great. That's assets, photos. We have like a little how to upload. You create a new folder, you name it this, da 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 da, whatever, right? It's not rocket science, but then it's great because later somebody says, hey, we need a photo of this. Well, guess what? We have them all and we know what date it was and we know where it was. And so we can find it and it's great. And when an event happens, I will go into the WhatsApp and say, here's the folder for the event, or send an email like upload to this. Events, I don't know, you know, whatever. Canva, I love Canva. Meetings info, we have agendas every month, so we can go back on it. Meeting norms, this is something that I actually pulled from stuff that I do with Sierra Club. Maybe those are important for your organization, maybe they're not, but like every once in a while, especially we have a lot of new members, we'll send them out and say, hey, everybody, just to check in. And we'll also share Beyond Plastics. I can't remember what it's called. It's on here. It is the message, purpose, and principles, because we can't have folks at like tabling somewhere and saying, I love recycling, don't you? Like that's not going to work. They can't do that with a Beyond Plastics banner in front of them. Any questions yet? We're good. We're almost done. All right. This is just like a work in progress. I have this in my email somewhere, like the text, this is a little work in progress guide to lobbying. I cannot find it to save my life. I wrote like this whole long guide to lobbying and it will, anyways.
Carolina, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna give you a 4-minute warning because
Great.
it's 10 of or 8
Great.
of.
Okay, so this is really like the last thing. So again, with having been like having to organize before, like how do you engage people? When you are tabling, and this is still a work in progress, but just I started this. So like you've got different goals. Number one is plastic sucks, people. You know, you don't say it like that, but that's basically it. Like it's an introduction to plastic is awful for all of these reasons. And then people are going to think about it when they walk away. Sometimes they have 10 seconds to talk to you. Sometimes they want to talk to you for way too long. And you're like, oh my God, I get it. You are very mad about this one thing. You should go talk to your landlord. You know, you get all types. That would be number one. You want to engage. This is where those QR codes come in so handy. If somebody has no time, I always say, go to our Instagram. Just go right to our Instagram. Just go there. It's all in the link tree. And I'll show you that if I can get there. The next one, sign up for the newsletter because they're going to get all the links on the newsletter. And then if they want to join the member interest form. And then the next thing, activate. We have all sorts of things that we'll have for different pieces of legislation at the time. I'm going to show you really fast what our Instagram profile looks like. So pinned is our newsletter. You know, we've got stuff here. Albany RSVP is a story. The link tree. You always want to have the link tree have things because nobody will type anything in. Sign up for emails. This is, you can sign the petition for the Packaging Act if you're in New York. Creating these colors, that's where those numbers for those colors came in really handy. Do we want to see Action Network emails?
No, I don't think we have time for that. That's a whole other can of worms.
I'll just show you how they're organized. And if there's a way for people to pull wait, what's going on here? Oh, I don't know why I'm like not signed in there. Anyways, because I have like a format where you can just pop things in and it's like all done and it's kind of a pain to make. So since I already did the work, I wish I could share it with folks. And then the final thing, when we are tabling, just to like give you something to see, we never have plastic, we have wood things or metal things. But we'll have this up. People can just scan the QR code or they can take a picture of it. You know, again, we don't have a website. So I tell people, this is our website. Go to the link tree. It's all there. And then the handy dandy thing that Christina made that I just made bigger. People can see it right there. Also for our members who are tabling who don't feel confident talking about everything, they can just kind of refer to that as like a touch point. And then we'll always have other stuff about skip the stuff or the Packaging Reduction Act, you know, like, hey, let's talk about New York and how we've got this amazing piece of legislation and blah, 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 blah. That's it.
Thank you, Carolina.
I feel bad about that because the Action Network, I'm like, that's actually really helpful, but
I know, but
I have it.
If people are interested in Action Network, we are happy to train people on Action Network. It is kind of a slog to learn. So we would need like critical mass.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole separate kind of training, but it will take your organizing from here to here.
It really does. Yeah. Because you can use that to do. Yeah. Anyways, we don't need to talk about that. But does anybody have a question? We good?
Well, I was going to say, Carolina, if people have questions, I mean, I know you're busy and you have a lot of things going on, but if they had particular questions about the drive or something, the way that you do it, would you be willing to take an email?
I want to say yes, but honestly,
probably not. Okay.
No
Ask now.
Right now. Zero bandwidth. I am like late on everything and I'm like,
no, that's good.
Guys.
Yeah. You know what, if you have a question, you can ask Alexis or I, and if we aren't sure how Carolina does it, then we'll find out. How's that?
And this is just one way. Like everybody can do different things. I just am hoping that this either you're like, that's going to work for me, or that gives me an idea for something else that will work for me. Because it stinks when you just have to learn the hard way. Like I've learned the hard way enough times that I would like to help other people, not to like, you know, run face first into the wall. Because it's no fun.
Exactly. Thank you so much. So, you know, we always try to say that we're going to keep this meeting to an hour, and I don't know, I think we did it once in the past. I've been with Beyond Plastics for almost a year and a half, and Alexis, I think we honestly have done it once. So as long as there's still interest, we're going to open the breakout rooms, divided into skip the stuff, bag bans, Meals on Wheels, chemical recycling, and synthetic turf. So depending on what campaign you're working on or you want to work on, if you're not already, you can choose the room on your own by going to the bottom right-hand corner and clicking the 3 dots and clicking the breakout rooms and choosing which room you want to go off to. If you can't see that, you're on an iPad or a phone, just let me know, or Naya know, one of us know, and we can pop you into a room. And then why don't we just say, leave from your rooms. So you don't have to come back. The main room, sorry, the main meeting room is synthetic turf. Did I say that already? So stay here if you're working on opposing SynTurf, and then leave your rooms when you're finished. And thank you. So I'm going to go to
Christina,
yeah.
Who's manning which rooms?
So I'm Skip the Stuff. Alexis, I was thinking you're going to start on Meals on Wheels and then pivot to chemical recycling. I'm on Skip the Stuff. Then I'm going to pivot to synthetic turf. And Naya is going to be in bag bans.
Okay. So nobody's in chemical recycling to start?
Right, because we have too many rooms, so we're going to have to do some circling. Yeah. So Alexis, if you'd rather start in chemical recycling and then go to Meals on Wheels, that's an option too. Hey, Maureen.
Okay.
Hi there. Tell me again how to get to the meeting rooms. I'm on an iPad.
Oh, you know what? I'll do it because the iPads are, I don't even know how to do it on an iPad. So which room would you like to go to?
Meals on Wheels, please.
Okay, you got it. Sending you there. That work? Okay, anyone else having trouble getting to a room? And remember this room, if you're staying here, yes.
Yeah, how do we get to Meals on Wheels?
I can send you, let me just find your name. Okay, I'm sending you there. Oop, I was sending you there, hold on. Okay, now you're going.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Hey, Christina, bag ban?
I'm here in bag ban.
Sorry. I wasn't.
You're good.
100% engaged.
All good. I'll find you. Okay, you're off.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, anyone else? So this is going to be opposing synthetic turf.
Okay, so just stay here for synthetic turf. Okay.
Just stay here. Yep. And like you heard, we don't have enough staff to be in every room. Kathy, I think you can handle facilitating this room. Thank you. And I'm going to go off to Skip the Stuff, and then I'll bounce back and check on you guys if you need anything.
Okie dokie.
All right. Just have to figure out now how to get myself to, got it.
Kathy, are you gonna start?
Oh, I'm pasting in. If you could start it, I'm pasting in the PVC information that you found. So, but I'm trying to make it short enough to put it in the.
Okay.
So
I know that Jean is in New Jersey. I'm in California. Kathy's temporarily in Oregon. She's from Maryland. But I know Louise is in Northern California. I'm not sure where everybody else is.
I'm
Yes.
also in North California.
You're where?
Northern California.
Where at in Northern California?
More north than Louise, I think. So we're in
north of Sacramento in the Sierra Foothills.
Okay.
I'm
That's
also,
Linda
Which
Valenti.
chapter are you with, Linda?
Waste Not Plastic, Nevada County.
Which Sierra Club chapter?
Oh, I suppose we're not officially affiliated, but I suppose it's probably like the Sierra Foothills chapter, maybe? I don't know exactly.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you were a member. Okay.
Oh, no, we're just in the Sierra Foothills area.
Okay, got it. And where is everybody else at?
I'm from Petaluma in Sonoma County.
Pennsylvania, South Central.
Where?
South Central Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Are you looking for the field turf patent, Kathy?
I got it. I'm just trying to make it
Okay.
short enough. I can actually pop it into the chat. It's too wordy. So I gotta shorten it.
Pamela, if Sierra Club taps you, just be aware that we're still working on a national policy on synthetic turf.
Okay.
And currently they are leaning towards a soft policy rather than a strong policy. So I haven't mentioned that we know you, so just be aware if they reach out to you. I know that the chair of the conservation committee of the New Jersey chapter said she was going to reach out to Sierra Club Pennsylvania.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm not a part of Sierra Club, but I know I wrote the article for them. So
yeah, that's what made me think they might reach out to you.
Yeah. And so what are they trying to put forth?
I wrote the California resolution as well as the national resolution, which passed last September, 35-1, with Colorado objecting to it and Mississippi abstaining. We're now working on turning that national resolution into a national policy. And it's, who'd have thought there would be so much drama over this. It's rather bizarre. But yeah, they're currently leaning towards a softer policy because they're banging drums that they shouldn't be banging, and they're misinterpreting, and they're saying, but what about the brown and black kids in city centers and in rural areas? And what about places like Arizona and Las Vegas where they can't grow grass? And it's all false narrative. And they're also trying to develop a policy that appeases blue states as well as red states. It's getting rather, so just be aware if you get tapped. We're trying to push for a strong policy here.
What's your answers to them? Because I'm thinking, well, yes, exactly. Like they are already, a group of people who are frontline communities, and
Correct.
so you want the children to become a frontline community. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
I mean,
well, that's exactly
that's my message to them.
Right.
You want to keep the demographic a frontline community. Oh, okay, great. I'd be like, yeah, fine. Nevada, in the desert. I grew up in the desert. Guess what? I played in the desert, and I played, on some dirt, and I played on some grass that was heavily watered. And you know what? Kids can just play.
Well, and you know what? They also have hybrids now that require significantly less water.
And perennials. It doesn't have to be grass. And in fact, turning it into different clover fields are fantastic for the soil.
Except you're not going to get a coach to buy off on that. So
well, they should, because you don't have to have as much lawn mowing, maintenance. I mean, there's like all kinds of good things.
Yeah,
But
we're working on rebalancing the scales here and bringing a reality perspective to this. So if you get tapped for the National Task Force, Sierra Club's National Task Force on a national policy against synthetic turf, just be aware that they're leaning in the wrong direction. We're trying to rebalance those scales.
Awesome. I'm with you guys.
Thanks. Good.
So I was wondering, I don't know how much time we have in this breakout, but so Diane just brought up the National Sierra Club, so some national issues that we're dealing with, and the bottom line is, and what you all probably hear, and this is the industry messaging, and then the messaging that comes from your schools and your parks often is, oh, but equity, meaning, oh, the only plastic will be equitable, grass can't take it, and on the playgrounds, oh, we can't possibly rake engineered wood fiber, and what Tamala just said, as far as messaging back, I think one of the things that we can do as a group, and maybe start putting it on the Beyond Plastics website. We have a Safe Healthy Playing Fields website, but I think we can probably maybe keep up the Beyond Plastics website, is have messaging responses to these, because those are the two main things: is grass can't take it, and equity. And what Tamala just said was like, that is what we were going back. Equity for what? You want to burn? I mean, to me, it's like clear. You want to burn and poison kids, and is that your idea of equity? And you don't want to give the the lower resource poor areas safe, healthy fields. It's good enough to give them something that's hotter than asphalt and full of toxins. It's so. I mean, that's the kind. So you have to have that kind of response, and then they'll say, well, what should we use? And it's like, well, you do the grass right. You have to put a little time and attention to it. And if you, for the amount of money that is being poured into synthetic turf and the tire waste playgrounds, they could have, at this point, all over the United States, they could have many times over put in a durable, high performing grass fields and playgrounds that they can then keep updating and upgrading. Now they'll say, it's the problem that comes up there is it's often different pots of money. So they treat synthetic turf installations and even reinstallations often as capital expenses, and they treat grass fields often at, it comes out of your operating budget, which is often less. So it's really not a physical infrastructure issue. Often it's more a budgeting issue. Where does the money, a finances issue, where's the money come from, even though you're using tons more money for synthetic turf, both initially and over time. And the maintenance actually isn't that different. If you do the maintenance of the grass, of the synthetic turf fields and the playground and the rubber playgrounds correctly, the maintenance costs are not that different, and not that much less frequent. Actually, synthetic turf should be maintained very frequently, particularly if it's used to the extent that they say. So that's kind of the bottom line of responses. And what may be helpful to all of you, and we should get feedback, is what would be helpful would be a kind of a script. Here's the what you pushback you've been getting, here's responses that we can recommend, and kind of a script similar to what I just said and what Tamala said. So we're trying to get a better sense of what would help people all over the country, because we're all hearing and seeing the same things, just slightly different. Some places it's really rainy, some places really dry, but that doesn't matter. There's different, grass is much more adaptable and certainly the playgrounds are as well. So would anyone like to chime in from their part of the country and what any specific issues that they're dealing with, and legislation as well? Because in Maryland, we have legislation, and I could talk about that, but I don't want to be the
Louise
only
has a hand. Yep, you're muted.
Louise, unmute yourself.
It doesn't look like she's muted though.
Oh, is she just not? Louise, we're not hearing you for some reason.
Can you put your question or comment in the chat?
Yeah, because we're not hearing you.
In the meantime, what you were saying about expenses, that seems to be an educational thing for our city council. We have a pretty sympathetic, I believe, city council not wanting to put in more artificial turf. and there's all these questions about, how to pay for things. So I know there's some folks locally that are kind of working on a quote kind of a business plan to help, how do you approach that with the city? So.
Right. And there's, I mean, some people have suggested like, you can have a bond, some kind of a bond bill where you actually have the money that's then available to keep, putting into maintenance and, for grass fields. At the end of the day, they already get creative with funding for the synthetic turf. They haven't even tried to get creative with funding for grass,
Yeah.
and it's totally possible.
I'll also say that for comparisons, it's very difficult, because what are you comparing? Are you comparing the sod that was rolled out last week without any professional soil testing or soil biome assay, without any drainage, isn't properly maintained? And are you comparing that then to the, $2.5 million plastic with the higher end plant-based infill that, by the way, increases the off-gassing by 70%, and a couple of them have tested positive for PFAS as well. So it's hard to do cost comparisons, except that we do know that in a lot of instances, things like the maintenance, the hardness testing, the replenishment of the infill, the maintenance that has to be done on these fields, the cleaning, the water for cooling, obviously the removal, replacement, and disposal are often left completely out of the equation when you're talking about plastic fields. So there isn't really true comparison of natural grass that is done properly and maintained by turf managers, not gardeners, not landscapers, people who actually know what they're doing. They have training and background in this, and hopefully know how to do it organically. And that field that is done properly can last for 30 years. So in a lot of cases too, when they're doing these so-called life cycle analyses, that should be from when they're manufactured. And to manufacture requires 989 gallons of water for a square meter of plastic alone. It should include the transportation to the site, the greenhouse gases that are being released from, the transportation, rolling it out, the 8 to 10 years of use of the field, and then the 450 years it takes for this stuff to decompose. They're not really doing a life cycle analysis. We did present this in Burbank, and so far, the life cycle analysis company that their Parks and Rec people had hired have not come back again. We dismantled their argument step by step, and so far that field has not gone up on their drinking water reservoir above Burbank that serves 150,000 households.
Do you have a copy of that life cycle analysis, Diane?
I have a copy of the letter that was sent.
Okay.
If you want to drop your email.
Yeah, so we have many different life cycles. So the Sports Turf Managers Association, if you go on the Safe Healthy Playing Fields website, there's links to some of the life cycle analyses that have been done by unbiased organizations. And I like to refer whenever possible to the Sports Field Managers Association, because they support both synthetic turf field managers and grass field managers. So it's hard for anyone to say, oh, they're biased, because they're supporting both. So that's one good place to go. And we do have links to that from our grass versus synthetic turf page on the safehealthyplayingfields.org, which I put in the chat. Safehealthyplayingfields.org it's like 12, 13 years old. and we've been trying to keep it up. It was very information rich, but a lot of the information is now pretty old because we're totally volunteer, and it's, as you all probably know, it's hard to find a webmaster. And it's hard to find, and more than that, it's hard to, then, the board, somebody has to work with the webmaster to make sure to, that the website is curated the way you want it. So we're struggling a bit with that, like all volunteer organizations do. So anyone who would like to help with that, we'd be more than happy. But getting back to some of the information that you're asking for, please do. We do have a lot of information on the website. And if there are things that you have that you think would be useful on any parts of that website, or things you think we should take down for that matter, please do let us know. There's a contact us page on the website, and you can always send an email to, we're going to change this soon, hopefully. We're hoping to get a nonprofit for a Google for nonprofits account. And we're so old that we can't, our old domain name is kind of lost in the sands of time. So we're trying to figure that out. But right now, shpfc.contact I'll put it in the chat, at gmail.com, but you can also just use the contact us page.
Kathleen, I don't know if, Louise, I don't know if your questions got answered.
Yeah, Louise, I will send you information on natural grass resources. And I will tell you too that no, there is nothing on the federal level. We don't even have anything currently on the state level. There is a bill, it's a rather generic bill, but I don't know that the author even realizes, frankly. It's a PFAS and textiles bill. I don't think that she realizes that synthetic turf is considered a textile. So we're kind of staying mum on the issue here in California right now. We don't want to draw a whole lot of attention because it's our only prayer this year.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good way to sneak it in. I love that.
Well, and frankly, this particular author recently supported, I'm trying to get back to the my screen page here. The author recently supported in a budget bill plastic field in her district. So I don't think that she realizes.
She
So we're
doesn't.
not saying anything right now.
But if that can get passed, that'd be awesome. And especially when she realizes. So there's one thing that I wanted to talk about in there, because some other people have been sharing with me, and then I'm dealing with this in my own community. Like you were mentioning, like the inner cities, and people who might live in the colder northern states, and just everyone's workout gyms. So like my YMCA, it is full of vinyl flooring and that rubberized flooring.
Yep.
Everywhere. And the one gym that they put it in is so toxic. I nearly passed out.
Yeah, I can't use my gym anymore. Haven't in several years. Yeah.
I know. And people are working out in there, like breathing hard, and little kids. And then they have like the that's their daycare centers and everything. So my thought is it's the same toxic mess, and I'm just wanting to confirm. And then if there's a way we can find out about it, and because that's like, I mean, the synthetic playing surfaces, the pips are growing up like crazy, the artificial turf, but those gyms are exploding equally.
So this might be a good segue. I mean, jump in. This might be a good segue into in Maryland, we have a bill that's focusing on 3 toxins that are typically found in play surfaces. And basically the bill doesn't ban synthetic turf or tire waste pip per se, but it bans any surfacing that has either lead or PAHs.
I was going to say polyaromatic hydrocarbons, please
right.
say.
Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons.
There you go.
PFAS. So PFAS right now, I mean, it may be in tires, but typically it's being found in the synthetic turf carpeting. PAHs are huge in rubber. That's one of the, and that was part of what got the tire crumb infill banned in Europe. was they already had started regulating pHs. We don't regulate pHs at all here in the US, unfortunately, so it makes it a little difficult. So we actually have to use so for the bill in Maryland, we actually have to use European levels because there aren't, the US just doesn't have anything except states on an individual level or localities. It's not even whole states that are banning coal tar sealants that have pHs over a certain amount, and yet the playgrounds nobody even looks at, even though they have pHs that may go over what's being regulated locally in coal tar sealants. So, and then the PFAS is typically in right now, as we're finding out, in the synthetic turf. And one of the things that all of you probably are already aware of, but if you're not, if anyone says to you that, oh, they've promised that or the synthetic turf they're providing to us is PFAS free, you should, number one, tell them to prove it. Number two, what do they mean by PFAS? So a lot of the companies, and it's not just for synthetic turf, it's for all sorts of things. The EPA is only regulating a few of the class of PFAS chemicals right now, particularly PFOA, PFOA, and PFOS, and a few others. So often they'll just move to another PFAS chemical that's not being regulated, but that doesn't mean it's safe, and then tell you it's PFAS free. They don't mean it's PFAS free. What they mean, it's any one of those regulated PFAS chemicals. And they also might mean over a certain level, but the PFOA and PFOS may still be in there, but at a level. So anyway, so that's, whenever they say that, don't take it at face value, because the industry has already said they don't know how to get rid of the make synthetic turf without PFAS, and PFAS is what made synthetic turf possible.
I actually have a list of 32 different PFAS from public records that I've acquired through various mechanisms and from testing results from these fields. And so 32, I have noticed that there have been playing whack-a-mole already within the same manufacturer, changing up the PFAS recipe that they're using. The latest gimmick right now, because the Synthetic Turf Council president and CEO sent a letter to California Senator Ben Allen last June, opposing one of the bills, the PFAS and synthetic turf bill, which was AB 1423 that passed, but that was vetoed by the governor. She had stated, we need a couple of years here. We can't get all this PFAS out of synthetic turf. That letter's gone around the block more than once. And the latest gimmick now is that all of these companies are claiming that they've removed the PFAS, their product is PFAS free. And what they're doing is they're showing results of PFAS in setting the MDLs in the parts per million, when PFAS is tested in parts per trillion. So when they falsely adjust the limits that would trigger a positive test result, they're coming back non-detect because they're not setting the limits in parts per trillion. So we're on to the game. We know this. We also know that I had an email that I still haven't responded to a week or two ago from the hazardous chemical engineer for the California Department of Toxic Substances Control, who is heading the PFAS and chemicals of concern in synthetic turf regulation that will be forthcoming. They're running a little behind schedule. It looks like now there will be a workshop that will be hybrid in late April, and then public comments about this regulation will be probably open in early May. So there will be an opportunity for people to inform themselves more on this, as well as be able to speak, as well as be able to contribute written testimony on this issue. Regulation is slow. It's gotten slower in California because our scientists are poorly paid. They've had trouble not only recruiting, but then also it's time consuming to onboard new scientists. So it's kind of slowed down the works here with this regulation. This actually became part of California Department of Toxic Substances Control 2021-2023 work plan, and here we are in 2024. So we're still going to be a couple of years out from regulation. We don't have much other hope for we have no more hope for additional legislation in California this year. The last day to submit for legislation or to submit bills was last Friday. But some other states are working on legislation. Maryland is an example with their track and trace bill. Colorado has some rather odd bills that have to do with HOAs and where they can put synthetic turf. We can't even ban synthetic turf here in HOAs because we have a ban on bans about synthetic turf at HOAs in California that unfortunately did not get overturned when Senator Allen got his SB 676 signed into law. It only applies to residential applications, unfortunately.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so we got real slim pickings going on in California this year.
And the other thing is, just real quick, when they tell you that, you know, it's PFAS free, they might be, you know, that they can say, well, we didn't add PFAS, but just to push it through the extruder and the molders, it's getting PFAS on it because they need PFAS to keep them from gunking up. So
well, and sometimes it's mixed into the chemical bouillabaisse, and sometimes it is sprayed on. It is the patents. The patents will vary as to how it's added. But yeah, it is a problem. They're not going to be able to get the PFAS out in any reasonable length of time. So we need to keep marching forward here. It's getting very tiresome to fight these field by field and city by city. We actually had one that another big issue we have in California that you may find is going on in other states is that school boards and cities are circumventing environmental laws, the environmental acts. We had one that just got approved in a city just north of Monterey. It's on a Superfund site, a former artillery range, an explosive ordnance site, and backs into a federal wetlands. They did not submit to the California Department of Toxic Substances Control. They did not post the notice for a mitigated negative declaration for the required 30 days. They had the superintendent of the schools they've been sued before. They cost the taxpayers $3 million on their last plastic field in Monterey. And the superintendent's got a PhD. Two of the school board members had PhDs. There was exactly one question asked about environmental impacts. They lied about it. And we had an activist there who said, you did not meet the requirement for 30-day notice. And the superintendent told her she was wrong. They took a vote and it passed unanimously. So it's, you know, and they fall within feet of having to require a California Coastal Commission permit. California Coastal Commission in December conditioned a playing field for UC Santa Barbara. They wanted to roll out 3 acres of plastic in their baseball stadium, and 11 people from the synthetic turf industry showed up. The commissioners were livid. They had to sit through the dog and pony show. And fortunately, they conditioned it for natural grass, but they accepted written signed affidavits from the industry saying that their products were PFAS free. Make sure that people in your town councils, city councils, board of supervisors, whoever is not accepting signed affidavits. The industry passes these out with impunity. I've got multiple examples of these. Yes, Louise, we still can't hear you. You have my email, Louise. You can email me or you can put it in the chat.
One tactic we might do is, instead of trying to go, like you said, school by school, Parks and Rec director by director and everything is maybe we can, do county, if we start flipping a few counties, then that can get movement toward getting some legislation at the state level.
We do have a ban now on residential applications in Millbrae, California. We have a second city, which is San Marino, just south. It's a small community just south of Pasadena that has an interim moratorium. They had put that into effect just before the SB 676, Ben Allen's bill was signed into law. I have no doubt that they will do a residential ban come September 12th when their interim ban expires. We do have many activists in the LA area working with trying to get LA to ban residential applications, which would be huge, huge. But again, it doesn't mean anything for commercial applications, for parks, for schools. It's very slow going. It's very, very slow going. Kathy knows this. She's been at this for 15 years.
Yep.
Diane, I have a question.
Sure.
It's Jean from New Jersey. What we're seeing in New Jersey is that not only are they going after the Board of Ed, school boards, and towns, so those are community projects, maybe, anywhere from 1 to 3 fields being proposed in a project for a community, but we're now seeing big projects. There's one in New Jersey, the Edison, New Jersey, and it's 14 artificial turf fields, and then I think it was 11 acres of parking lot, so nearly 40 acres of natural grass being destroyed, and it's called a destination sports complex.
All over the country.
Are you seeing that all over the country?
Yes. They're putting them in 10 to 15 fields at a time and calling them sports complexes. They know that regulation and legislation is coming. They are hell-bent to roll out as much plastic as they can everywhere they can.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And regarding where I am in New Jersey, we were able, a lot of hard work and it was a lot of luck that we just defeated 6 acres of plastic grass behind an intermediate school. And it wasn't, I would love to say that our hard work and trying to educate the community was the result, it resulted in that. But most people still, despite like 2.5 years of going to meetings and speaking and trying to educate, we didn't convert Yeah, we didn't convert people. It was more the money. It was an $11.8 million bond ordinance. But what we're trying to do now that it was defeated is offer something else, which is the natural grass. And we're wondering, I know of a couple people that are natural grass experts. Do you know of more besides Chip Osborne and Jared Minnick?
Well, Jared Minnick, you're not going to be able to recruit. He runs the Maryland Soccerplex. But the Beyond Pesticides has a program, and they prefer to have 2 to 3 fields, but they will actually, and they will gratefully accept donations because it does cost them money to do the soil testing and the living organism bioassay for the soil and whatnot. But they will actually have programs where they will take on a couple of fields, and for 2 years, they will provide training. They will provide, they will review the budget to see where things can be tweaked and move away from the toxic fertilizers and pesticides and whatnot that are being used. And they offer this 2-year program. They do it in conjunction with Chip Osborne. They also do it in conjunction with Stonyfield, the yogurt people.
Oh,
And they and they may do it with others as well. But that information is available on Beyond Pesticides website.
I'll have to look again on their website. I did watch the webinar, and we had spoken to Chip Osborne, but and have watched, I think, Kathy, I recognize you as being in the video from the Montgomery. I think you were in the audience.
Oh, that's quite possible. Yep.
That was a wonderful video that the Montgomery County Council of PTAs did
Right.
about
Oh, you
5
were on
years
that.
ago.
Okay.
Very, very inspiring. It's just really hard to get people in our community in New Jersey, and I'd say throughout New Jersey, to really believe that it can work, because we don't really have any natural grass athletic fields. We have schoolyards and parks that have been pressed into service, and then those get compared to the plastic grass, and they're
Right.
like, oh, but they're not really athletic fields.
They don't go to the next step on the grass fields, like do the grass fields right before you start
Exactly.
to spend all this money on
That hasn't been done.
The other thing you can do too is non-toxic communities.
Okay.
Google non-toxic communities, organic playing fields. They have a lot of information on their website as well. Turi has a
We
lot
have
of case
those.
studies.
We put those out, shared the case studies, referred to them, when we were up at the mic, and shared them. And we had people that just wouldn't believe it. And, in the sports community, they just,
it's a different climate. It's a
yeah.
different.
And then we did get caught off guard, because the one in Springfield, the case study in Springfield, at one of, I forget which meeting it was one of the town council meetings shortly before the general election vote, when the residents got to vote on this plan, on the bond ordinance, and voted it down. We were blindsided by our mayor saying that Springfield, Mass was actually putting in artificial turf. And I wasn't sure she was actually telling the truth, but when I got home and looked, she was, because Greg and I had gone up there and had visited and saw like the field where the case study had been done, and we had talked to the person that maintained it. We had no idea that there was a natural or artificial turf going in, and that apparently the mayor, as a politician, had photos taken with it and was talking it up, and somehow our mayor found out about it and tried to undercut us, but the voters spoke.
Too, we have noticed that with bond measures, oftentimes they use very generic language that will allow cities to put in, or cities, even boards of ed, to put in synthetic turf. And you have to do your due diligence. You have to pay attention. When the wording goes on a ballot, often it's limited to like 75 words, and you need to go back to the original language. You need to find the actual bond itself and see the way it reads. And we have caught a couple of cities on that. We've also been using here in California, my new favorite tools besides the heat island maps are to watch FlightAware, and there's another website where you can monitor flights from airports all over the country and watch them as they're flying over these cities, and say, you're in this flight path, and the EPA says this about impervious fields, and it says this about, what collects on these impervious fields when you're in flight paths. And it also, it increases the runoff. The more junk that is accumulated on these plastic fields. I just have somebody who just put together a Google Doc that and actually she did this in conjunction with Kristen Mello, Kathy, Diana Carpinone, where they actually calculated, how much water is in snowfall, how much rain falls in a given area for a certain length of time, what the difference in the runoff between natural grass fields versus synthetic fields is. The difference that she found for her town was astronomical. It's like, it was like 30 million gallons more running off of synthetic fields than it would be from grass fields. So, there are a lot of ways to address these issues and to disarm these false claims, but it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work when you're doing this location by location.
Dan, do you think that there's anything like, what else could we do like that, that beyond plastics to support? Because it's so location specific, but is there anything, aside from providing a space to convene people, I just don't know that, would a webinar be helpful? Maybe not, because it's not location specific, and who's your audience, right?
You don't want to sing to the choir, but
Right, exactly. So I'm just, as you're talking, I'm just trying to think, I know that Piper, non-toxic schools had worked with Chip and they had training that, and I don't know how that went.
I can talk about that issue outside of this.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
it's
Wasn't good.
It's somewhat problematic.
Okay.
And non-toxic schools no longer exists.
Okay. I was wondering, and I had reached out to Piper a few times and hadn't heard back. And so I was like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, talk to me.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Forget that. But yeah.
I want to mention, because Alexis is here. Alexis, you're aware, of course, of the PFAS legislation in Indiana. And Dr. Graham Peasley has provided testimony on a couple of occasions. He's been knocking on doors.
Diane, can you explain what that is so people know?
I'm sorry, you're right. They want to, it is being proposed in the Indiana legislature to redefine PFAS so that they can include it in more products. They don't want to see it banned as a chemical class. They are trying to redefine PFAS, and there is a letter that I got a hold of that, as of this morning, had 100 PFAS expert scientists sign on to this letter to go to the legislature. I came across it in.
Was it pro or anti PFAS?
Oh, no. These are experts on PFAS. They are saying you got no business redefining PFAS.
Okay,
here.
good.
I came across this in an email from the Green Science Policy Institute, which is in Berkeley. Dr. Arlene Blum is the one who sends out these newsletters from time to time. And she made reference to the fact that if you're a scientist, please sign on here. And I clicked the link and came up with this letter, and that had literally had like at least 100 people. But there was a disclaimer in there saying, be aware that this list is still being added to. So, if we can get obviously statewide, federal would be fabulous legislation on, PFAS in consumer products. That would be huge. It's a massive undertaking, as we're all seeing, with all of us already working on these issues 20 hours a day and better in some cases, and 7 days a week in others. But that, and Diana Carpinoni with Non-Toxic Neighborhoods is right there in Dover. She was behind the plastic playing field in Portsmouth.
Yep.
She and Ted Jankowski. Yeah. So if anybody has that crystal ball that can figure out how can we get this federal legislation, we'll all be in great shape.
That would be great.
So anybody else?
Maybe at our next meeting, we can, talk about structuring some legislation based on the regulations that you were mentioning at the beginning.
Just before this meeting, I was in a 2.5 hour meeting with some people that are more local here. We've got the Trust for Public Land is asking for $1 billion in our state budget. And Kathy and I know very well that they can do wonderful things, but they also like to put in playgrounds with synthetic turf and used tire crumb playground surfaces. So we were brainstorming for 2.5 hours and about putting together a coalition and getting sign-ons from major environmental organizations, not just within California, but outside of California as well.
So pertinent to that, yeah, TPL is Trust for Public Land is huge in the you know, they do a lot in, you know, public land funding, but they have these green schoolyards and community green communities initiatives, and for whatever reason, and I've talked with them in various venues a number of times, and somehow they've gotten co-opted. But you know, this whole idea of equity, and as far as I can tell, it's mostly because it looks pretty. I mean, they love showing, if you look at their PR literature, you know, they'll show an asphalt, you know, before, and then the after is that same asphalt place, but it's just, you know, synthetic turf has been slapped down on it, so there's a nice bright green field, and you know, and there's
new
a
colored
rubber
asphalt.
color, and then colored, and they probably paint what they don't put colored tire rubber down on, they paint. So it's all about looking pretty. And Diane has actually done some follow-ups on some of the projects they've done. And there's no of course, these things require a lot of maintenance. You know, they sell them as, you know, low maintenance, and that's part of the equity issue. It's like, oh, well, they don't have enough money to maintain anything different, anything healthier. But when they're not maintained, the rubber starts to fall apart, the synthetic turf starts to, you know, get so hard as concrete. They don't address it boggles my mind, because they say, oh, we're creating cool schoolyards, and yet it's out of the frying pan into the fire for the kids, because these pretty, you know, these colorful looking yards are actually hotter than asphalt. So one of the things I'd like to do as Beyond Plastics is start a campaign against this type of greenwashing. And it's not just them. There's also the Sierra, as part of the Sierra Club, they have an outdoors program. They have people from Trust for Public Land, and some of the companies like Kaboom that install these type of playgrounds with the rubber surfacing, and we'll do synthetic turf as well. Really kind of calling out, you know, and Beyond Plastics, that's one of the things that you know, you all and the group as a whole has been really good at, is calling out greenwashing. So this is kind of greenwashing in a different way, but on a large scale. And so I'd like to start, you know, brainstorm with people a campaign to really raise the profile of this problem. And I'm not exactly sure how to do it, other than, you know, we have approached them, but only as individuals. I was thinking, you know, maybe a sign-on letter, you know, that would have a lot of organizations that are interested in children and health and plastics, you know, going directly to them and other entities we know who are pushing at this and saying, you know, please stop. This isn't good for kids, and it's not equity. And again, you know, out of the frying pan into the fire for the kids, that's not, you know, and poisoning them. And I last year I had suggested a campaign, no child fried outside. I still would like to do that for this year. I never got it off the ground, but it catches people's attention, because that's what you're doing when you put these plastic and tire waste surfaces down. And you can paint the asphalt, but the plastic and the tire waste next to the asphalt is going to be even hotter. So you are really frying the kids at a time when the earth is heating up.
Kathleen?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in New Jersey, and one thing to be aware of, that went a law that went into place in New Jersey, it's called Jake's Law, and it's for inclusive playgrounds.
Yeah.
And they somehow, that law was co-opted. It had to have been, because in order to, it's part of New Jersey's like just so messed up with all of this. It's disgusting. We have the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection has the Green Acres portion of it, and Green Acres funding is used to fund artificial turf.
Yeah.
And the PIP playground surfaces. And then Jake's Law, it's for inclusive playgrounds. And it has to have, in order to be considered inclusive and get at least to get grants for it. I'm not 100% sure what would happen if they didn't include it, but I mean, I know they wouldn't get the grant, but it says unitary surfacing on it. Diane, you were part of a discussion.
I told them I had to step out of that conversation because they obviously have a law in the books that, it is not what ADA says. And it clearly seems like they've been co-opted.
I think it has to have been, and then even somebody else in a group of people that I'm working with in New Jersey were suggesting Korth, and I know you had jumped in and said no.
Well, I showed you the document.
Yeah, because I was so grateful that you did that, because I wasn't home at the time, and I was thinking there's got to be like, so how does it get bound together? It's got to be some sort of
urethane on the bottom, urethane sealer on the top. It's sourced from Portugal and Morocco. I know that they use, at least in Portugal, because I dug into this back in 2018, 2019, they use a lot of pesticides on these cork trees because of the funguses that they're prone to. You also cannot harvest a cork tree for 25 years, and then you can only harvest it every 9 years thereafter. So it's, they call it sustainable, but you got to wonder what it's got to grow for 25 years, and then you can only harvest it every 9.
I haven't heard yet though that there's a problem.
They are all getting these carbon certificates, and cork oak does a fabulous job of sequestering carbon when it's a tree. But once you harvest that old tree, there it all goes. And there is research out of Australia that says that these plant-based infills add an additional 70% to the greenhouse gases that are released when they're used in the plastic fields.
Diane?
Yes.
So what about corking though for the playgrounds?
Well, that's what they're talking about in New Jersey.
As opposed to infill for synthetic. Yeah. Synthetic turf means there's no cost.
There are some up in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. There are none down here that I'm aware of, but I'm hoping that people can get out and see what's going on with all the rain and also get temperatures on them when it starts warming up. We need to have some.
So that's a possible, I mean, so the gold standard right now, of course, and I like to tell you, nothing is perfect, and it's not a perfect, not a perfect wall, nothing is perfect. The gold standard right now is engineered wood fiber. That's not mulch. If you hear the word mulch, they're not doing the right thing. It's engineered wood fiber, which they mill to knit together and install in layers and tamp it down. And it's it's by the ASTM
compliant.
Yeah, by ASTM standards, it's wheelchair
not considered unitary under the New Jersey law.
Right. And which is wrong. So because it's actually considered according to the guidelines and according to the national, I don't know, ASTM or whoever certifies the standards, the unitary
standards, by the way, right?
Right. The unitary surfaces and engineered wood fiber are considered both, wheelchair, accessible. It doesn't mean that it's not going to have problems, but neither does the unitary surfaces, as you all know, and that's the other thing you push back on. And I like to bring up the example of one of the first handicapped accessible playgrounds that been done in the country, which is Hadley's Playground in Potomac, Maryland. They had to get rid of first of all, they found out it was incredibly hot. So that was like, whoa, what's going on here? And it started falling apart, which they do. and of course they weren't maintaining it.
Right.
And so eventually they tore it all out, and they also tore out the higher equipment for the handicapped kids, and just put picnic tables there, and just left all the lower stuff and put in basically plastic tiles over mulch. So it's not all, so the unitary surfaces are not only not all they're cracked up to be, but they crack up.
Yeah.
And there you
And
fire from.
So, I had started when I had Kathleen and Lee do the webinar for a conversation on plastic on synthetic playing fields, a infographic and a letter. So I'd like for you guys, if you're willing, to look at them and go over them with a fine-tooth comb. And the biggest thing I'm working on now is just to figure out the exact asks that we want, because the idea of the letter is to take it to your local parks and director, your school superintendent, or your municipal leaders, and or we can go beyond that and take it to our county commissioners, right? But we know most communities have at least some of these synthetic playing surfaces in and on them in some facet. So it's both to serve to say, okay, we don't want any more added. We don't want, if you have them, we don't want them replaced. And as long as you have them, you need to abide by, complying with the safety regulations, which they're not doing. And so I've started writing those up and everything. And I can do a screen share and show you guys, but I can just send it to you to look at. And because I'd like to get that done off my checklist so it can be available in the toolkit that I've created. I don't know if any of you guys have gotten the toolkit and looked at it.
No, I just recently did a letter on behalf of Safe Healthy Playing Fields that went to the Cal Recycle, which is one of the arms of the California EPA. They were asking for comments about their markets for tire crumb. You want to know my real opinion? So a letter went there, and then also we've started kind of a campaign with the California Coastal Commission. They were here in my town a couple of weeks ago. During the King Tide event, we've got a playground with this surfacing on 2 of our beaches, one of which is kind of dangling over the edge, ready to go in the ocean. And I was able to speak for 2 minutes. I did put together a slide presentation that was too big to go through. I had to water it down and got it down to like from 12 to 7 slides. And then because I was limited to 2 minutes, I think I got 3 slides into it in my 2 minutes. But so we're kind of starting a campaign here now that we've got them to see the light on the microplastics from the synthetic turf. We want them to understand that these playgrounds, they cannot be approving these in coastal permits because of all of these chemicals, various chemicals that impact not only human health, but wildlife and aquatic life as well.
Right, because I was going to say that's another angle that I'm going after. I just had a meeting with the local Conneauga Creek watershed, which is a almost a 200-mile creek that leads into the Susquehanna, which the Susquehanna is, over 50% of the Chesapeake Bay water. And my thing to them was that a new synthetic playing surface was put 100 yards from a premier trout stream that people, come, limestone stream, and that it's going to shed zinc, which is very hazardous, and 6 ppd, so it's just those 2 chemicals alone, are very, very toxic for aquatic life.
Right, but 6 ppd quinone has been found to be toxic and lethal not only to coho salmon, but also brook and rainbow trout.
Right, which is why that's what I was telling them. Yeah,
exactly. And then there's the PFAS issue, right?
Right, right. Well, I got to tap out, guys, But yeah, if you want to, wouldn't mind looking over these documents and so that I can include them in the toolkit, and I think they'll be useful and communities can use them. And Diane, if you guys want to add stuff or whatever, that'd be awesome.
Okay, well, I smell dinner.
Thank you, everyone.
Since I missed lunch.
I'm smelling bed. It's 9 my time.
I know.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you so
Good
much.
talk, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. And I'll
Take
try to
care.
share, those of you who are on, you can, save the chat if you'd like. There's a lot of follow-ups that could be done. So I encourage you to do that, and maybe Beyond Plastics maybe could
Yeah.
save the chat as well and
If
share
Kathy,
that.
save it, could you shoot it to me?
Yeah. Do you see the
No,
Yeah,
it's not coming up for me right now.
Mine
up at the
isn't.
top? There's 3 dots, and
No,
you should.
not
Yeah.
on, no, it's, for me, it's down below.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, it's
not
moved for me for some
populating.
reason. Now it's a top.
I just
Okay.
saved it too.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Everyone,
Okay.
good night.
Good
Bye.
night. Do you see the chat, Christina?
Yeah, I got it. It used to be at the bottom for me, and now it's at the top.
I know, isn't that weird? And then sometimes I'm on Zooms and it is at the bottom still. So I'm like, I was so confused at first because
too.
I thought I couldn't do it, and then I noticed it was at the top. So anyway, yeah, it's odd. But yeah, there's a lot in the chat.
There's a lot. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. So yeah, I do want to try to work more with Beyond folks to help us kind of craft a couple of campaigns, particularly focused on the heat and the placer. Yeah. And the greenwashing that's being done. I mean, that's part of the problem. It's like, it's hard to fight against, these organizations that say they're doing wonderful things for kids.
Right.
And it looks so pretty.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I find. Parents, even locally, they have no idea. So
and that's all they're offered. They're like, it's this or nothing. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, let's well, we'll come back to this meeting, but if there's an opportunity to do kind of more of a strategy session.
Yeah. And I have a transcript too, the session. So I'll, of this particular one. So I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, so I don't know if it would be possible to set something up with you guys and propose and bring anybody in who's interested in really kind of, I know you've talked about it for a long time. You've wanted us to do that for a long time. It's like, now that I'm retired, I should have time, but now we're working on legislation. Oh, and there's the whole legislation part.
Yeah, it's nonstop. The like, when you lose something, you get 3 more things. So
right, it's like right, or you start to deep dive into something that you said no to before, and then that fills in. So anyway, but you can see there's a lot. We had 10, 11 people on this.
There might have been more. Yeah, I think there was more before I joined, came back.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's touch base. Yeah, I'll touch base via email. Maybe the next, I know our March meeting we said we were going to use for planning purposes. So
thank you, Susan.
Maybe, yeah. Anyway, maybe we can have a meeting aside from this or use this space if this works for people.
And try to strategize what can we most profitably work on nationally with the help of Beyond Plastics and the network, because as was pointed out here, we're all doing our little local things, or not so little, but it's until we do the national campaigns and really target those who are undermining the message. So
yeah, I think that sounds really good.
All right, well, thank you so much. You guys are great. I mean, I'm so glad you're out.
Likewise.
This has been all righty.
See you
Take
soon.
care.
Bye.
Bye.